Hey, everybody. Welcome into a little Olsen Magic TexAgs Rewind presented by Yeti. Billy Liucci, David Nuno here. Hey, buddy. Olsen Magic was nice. Look, I don't care how it happens. Get the wins and keep on winning these series.
Win an SEC series at home. You need to do that as often as you can, and don't get swept, sweep, and defend Olsen. Defend Bluebell Park. Defend your backyard, and that's what the Aggies did this weekend, and they did it against the defending champs. Mm-hmm. They did it against a rivalry team. By the way, that's 2 series in a row over Ole Miss. They went into Oxford and won one last year. Those are quality series wins against that program, as the Rebels proved last year. So don't look at their record yet, meaning Ole Miss's, and I'd also say don't look at A&M's record yet.
Yeah,
they're 3-6 against, number one team that was number one all year last year and is really good again this year, World Series contender, and probably a likely World Series participant in Tennessee, and then the defending champs in Ole Miss. It's about as tough a start as you could have in this league. I guess you could throw Florida or Arkansas in there in place of Ole Miss right now, and you'll get them later. But this was the type of series A&M's going to have to grind out. These 2-1, win it on Sunday, do whatever it takes. They're going to have to win something like that several times the rest of the way to get into and perhaps even host a regional, as far-fetched as that sounds right now. But it's a long baseball season. They've played 3 SEC series out of 10. In these next 7, to achieve either one of those goals, they're going to have to grind out these Sunday wins however necessary, and it was fun. The way they did it on Sunday.
So we talked about that. We also talked about surprisingly good and bad SEC teams in football this upcoming season. Some opinions we had on that. Dane Bradshaw got us ready for the NCAA tournament. That and more.
And you wish Schloss a good night.
Oh, I did. I said, hey, I hope you have a good night. Well, I hope he does have a good night.
You could have said, hope you have a good breakfast.
Lunch.
Hope you have practice. Meetings go well. I hope lunch goes well. I hope practice goes well. I hope dinner goes well. And then I hope you have a good night.
Let's put this to bed. Here's TexAgs Rewind. If you guys have time for a too early football question, what SEC team do you expect to be surprisingly good and surprisingly bad in 2023? I went through last year's standings and considering some of the changes that's happened, I don't see anybody that I think is going to be surprisingly good. Surprisingly good. Now, could Kentucky have a bounce back year? They could. I don't know enough about the quarterback situation. I know Liam Cohen's back. Could they be surprisingly good? Sure. But surprisingly good to me sounds like a team that you don't expect to win 10 games that wins 10 games. I don't know. I mean, maybe A&M could be that surprisingly good team.
I think it is A&M, and I'll tell you why. They lost last year 5 games by a touchdown or less, despite having a poor offense and a bad run defense and playing. You had, 34 players miss multiple games with injuries, and you were playing mainly a sophomore and freshman lineup.
Yeah,
everybody's gotten a year older, bigger. Maybe some of those games that were close losses become close wins. The last time, I hesitate to say this because there are a lot of difference, but last time they had a season like that was 2011. They lost 5 games by a touchdown or less. The next year they came back and was 11-2. Of course, and they had Johnny Manziel. But you know what else they had? They had a stacked offensive line coming back. And I think the offensive line will be better, but it's not going to be stacked like that 2012 line.
They're potentially got a second-year player making his. What would that be for Cam Dewberry? Like if he starts, he would be making his 4th start,
4th or 5th. Well, at the beginning of the year, probably about the 5th start.
Right.
But they got better when he got in.
If Chase Pasantis can work his way in again, if the 3, and I talk about those 3 guys, you know who I'm talking about, Layden, Bryce, and Ruben. If they can live up to what we think that they are, then I feel much better about the whole thing.
Play well tomorrow night. You got to start stringing together some wins, and you could. I think that's what you have to do, and it doesn't have to be 7 straight. That'd be awesome, but just play really good, clean baseball. I mean, you look at yesterday. I don't remember looking at the box score, but how many did we walk on a day after we walked 11? How the free bases were just all over the place on Saturday, and it's just a matter of again, we can search for all these other things, but I truly believe the game begins and ends with starting pitching, and it begins and ends with that. If you can give your team a chance early in the game, and you can keep the other team down, and then give the coach and the pitching coach and the bullpen a chance to figure out the last 3 to 4 innings, then you're going to have a chance to have a good season. And we have to get this program, and we will. We have to get this program to the point where it used to be, where you have elite starting pitching. And when I say elite starting pitching, everybody in this league, the established programs where the coach has been there for a while, like Arkansas and Florida and Ole Miss, the starting pitching for the most part, unless they have injuries, is so good. And we in Texas A&M in 15 and 16, when I was competing against those teams, it was so good, and that's where we have to get it. And whether it be through the transfer market or just ultimately it's growing up our own pitchers. That's where we have to get this thing, because that way you go into every game and you're not concerned about how you're going to get out of the first freaking inning, and that's a bad feeling to have. But we're going to get it turned around. I can promise you that.
Appreciate your time, Jim. By the way, only one walk yesterday, which I know you know.
It's hard for me to say that UConn is not favored the way they have just been blowing through this tournament. You talking about playing your best basketball in March and then leading into April, if you can make it that far, that would be an understatement for UConn. And this tournament is so tough. You talking about the different venues you got to play in, all the hype, the Cinderellas, all those things, and yet UConn just keeps taking care of business in double-digit fashion. And so, look, I think San Diego State, they're going to have, which they're capable of, they're going to have their best defensive effort of the season. And when we say the phrase, you got to be one and done on the defensive end, that's what they have to do, is limit UConn to one shot, box out, because UConn does a terrific job of crashing the glass. And the tough part is, even if you're in good position, UConn's got some huge bigs there that can kind of reach over the top and get those offensive rebounds and extra possessions. So San Diego State, a team that hangs its hat on the defensive end, where their offense lags behind a little bit, whereas UConn is really top 10 in both categories.
I think this entire season, I was thinking it's Petrino and the quarterback. How quickly that. None of that matters without O-line. And I think in year 2 under Adazio, with potentially 5 starters back, take your normal starting 5, and then you throw in that you've got Aki, you've got Naboo, who started a game, you've got Wyckoff started half a year. So you've got at least 8 guys coming back, and I believe the number, and Moko, who started several games. You've got 9 guys with starting experience coming back. Guys like Naboo and Basantis have looked really good this spring, but Chase Basantis, he may end up starting at one of the tackles this year. He's that promising, that good. Zune will have to come back and be ready to compete and play. But you've got that puts you at 11 guys. Well, I said Naboo is one, so that puts you at 10 with Basantis. And I think Crownover's seasoned enough that if he needs to play, he can play. You've got depth, you've got experience, you've got returning starters, you've got some high-end guys, you've got multiple 3-year starters up front in Layden, Fothery, and Foster. This O-line should be good. I'm not saying they have to be great. This should be a good SEC offensive line. I don't think there's an excuse for it not to be. If they are a good SEC offensive line, then I think this team could do some really nice things. And defensively, I'm going to say it until I see otherwise. I'm worried about depth at corner and linebacker. Mm-hmm. You can't have a great defense if you're playing guys that shouldn't be out there at corner and linebacker, whether it's because they're not talented enough or impactful enough, or if they're just too young, that you can't do it. So I would love to see potential portal guy at either or both positions. I would love to see, they need to stay healthy, and I would love to hear more of guys kind of rising up.
Good night, friends. Make sure you like.
And get some sleep.
Comment, subscribe, share, and get a good night rest. And I'll bring you your little bottle of milk next on TexAgs. Bye.